Thanks. Thank you. My name is Prasi Gupta. I'm the Deputy Director for the National Guestworker Alliance and the New Orleans Worker Center for Racial Justice. I also bring greetings from our Executive Director, Saket Soni, who couldn't be here today. I was here to talk about the transformation of work and how we're sliding into a new economy, where direct, stable, predictable, long-term source of income as we have defined work has changed, rather into a rise in the contingent labor force. Now, we've all heard about the contingent workforce throughout the day. Many people in this room and many may not know that the National Guestworker Alliance and the Worker Center in New Orleans was created after Katrina. In the aftermath of Katrina, so much of the city and the state was rebuilt and is still being rebuilt on the backs of black and immigrant workers. In a state that has less than 2% union density, it's really, really hard to then be able to sustain long fought hard labor regulations and laws and rights that workers have fought for, and instead they were all kind of thrown out with the water descending back into the Gulf. So what we did is we started to work with the contingent labor force and started to organize in a very untraditional way, but partnering with many of the unions, not only in Louisiana, but across the country. The increase in contingent work has resulted in workers employed at lower wages, working conditions at work unregulated and worsening, less bargaining power for union workers, and intermittent rather than permanent work with increasing periods of unemployment between jobs. I don't know if folks know, but at the last count in 2006, the GAO found that there is 42.6 million contingent workers in the country. That's about a third of the labor force. Numbers can be absolutely debated, but no matter what, the numbers are saying that we're leading towards a particular direction in this country. As long-term unemployment has increased and has become not an exception but the norm, today there's 37% of the unemployed have been so for more than 26 weeks. Studies suggest that when employers see such long-term unemployment, they're more likely to hire less skilled or experienced workers who have recently lost a job, as opposed to very experienced workers who have been not been working for over 6 months. The result of all of this is then that workers become extremely afraid of trying to challenge and demand for better wages, benefits, and job quality, knowing that the employer can draw from a larger pool of the unemployed or the underemployed. And then additionally, if you put a global perspective into this, then you see that there are guest workers and undocumented workers who are willing to come and work for far lower standards in our workforce, which of course then lowers the floor for all of us. So the way that the guest workers, as well as our partnering organizations, Jobs with Justice, who you heard from Sarita, as well as the National People's Action, have decided to kind of move in responding to the rise of contingent labor is through an initiative called the Future of Work. There are over, and with that, so the basis of it is mobilizing workers regionally and across industries and labor markets and supply chains to win campaigns that redefine the nature of work and how workers bargain with employers. And then also challenging existing labor laws and creating conditions for a new social contract in America. Another way is looking at developing municipal and legislative agendas that include next generation policy demands, organizing strategies, culture change work, and civic engagement. The idea is to inspire workers into action to build worker power. There's two potential policy solutions, Sarita mentioned one of them, which is, what you hear in terms of establishing a community bargaining authority. San Francisco Jobs with Justice was able to do that with the Retail Workers Bill of Rights. Still has a long way to go, but is in the direction of how community can get involved in enforcing regulations and laws. Another is expanding joint liability between labor contractors and the workers, the real boss and the end users. Who are the end users? Two examples of this is, CJ seafood workers that we worked with in Louisiana are part of the seafood supply chain. The contractor is contracting to Walmart. By actually putting so much pressure publicly, Walmart was the one who actually went back to CJ and said, you must abide by labor standards, and better working conditions for the workers, or we're just going to cancel your contract. So that was one kind of way that we're looking at bargaining or organizing in a different form. Another way is through looking at just looking at the Retail Workers Bill of Rights, or what Retail Action Project is doing in New York City. I know Sasha Hamad is out here, where there's new policy fights that people are trying to, put both on the local level with the idea that it can build towards a national platform around policies that respond to the new economy. Other ways that we're looking at it is annual evaluation of minimum wage, fact-finding on subcontractors, developing enforcement of labor standards, and overseeing how grants are offered to contractors. The vision is to reinvent bargaining through this process, reimagining the safety net. I think the bad employer's fee from NPA and Jobs with Justice is a really good example of if you actually, force the employer to give money after they are found in violation of workers' rights. That money can be utilized in many creative ways. One could potentially be going towards a local social safety net for contingent workers who are not covered under our national safety net. And then lastly, guaranteeing full and fair employment. And the only way that's going to actually happen is through strong union partnerships towards making sure that contingent workers have the ability to create paths towards collective bargaining and negotiating across the table with their employer. We believe this happens through building a common analysis and story, developing local handles and anchor fights, develop an agenda of next generation policies, scale the web and media presence into a much higher scale, and creating political programs in all of the different states that unions have been doing for forever. So I'm going to end closely by just saying, I heard earlier today Harold Meyerson mention that, if this was all happening already, we wouldn't be in this room. But, as worker organizations, such as worker centers, partner with unions on the local level, the hope is that next year we can be in the same room and we could share and highlight multiple examples of victories of how the labor movement was reinvigorated with strong unions and non-traditional worker organizations paving a path towards worker power. Thank you.
Awesome. Curtis Peterson.